Good evening. I'm Pedro Hazel Jr.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
Welcome to another edition of Sportslines Plus. We'll be discussing the Mets and Yankees reaching their respective league championship series and the firing of Jets head coach Robert Saleh. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, and the internet address is youtube.com/@Sportslines. This is the website. The Mets head to the National League Championship Series for the first time since 2015. They faced the Los Angeles Dodgers in a rematch of the 1988 National League Championship Series, which they lost 4-3. The Mets are looking for revenge here. The Mets beat the Philadelphia Phillies. How they got here was how the Mets beat the Philadelphia Phillies 4-1 Wednesday night. The NLCS starts tomorrow night. Meanwhile, it's the Yankees and the Cleveland Guardians in the American League Championship Series. The Yankees beat the Kansas City Royals 3-2 Thursday night. The ALCS starts Monday. Steve, what do you think of both series? First, we'll talk about the Mets. Now, the Mets have been like everywhere. I mean, it's like they've been the comeback kids. I could say probably the cardiac kids.
I was thinking I would say cardiac kids. This team has done absolutely amazing things. The teams that they have beaten to get to this point are the Atlanta Braves, Milwaukee Brewers, and the Phillies. All of these teams are supposed to be better than the New York Mets. And the Mets really had to scrap their way through.
Yeah.
The Phillies came in with the top record in the National League.
Yes.
And they were up ahead of the Mets by 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mets were not supposed to even be close to this series, much less play them.
Yeah.
But for the Mets to actually beat this team and take them out in 4 games.
4 games.
Never having to face Zach Wheeler again, the former ace of the New York Mets, by the way.
Yeah.
Who probably would have beaten us the same way back in 1986. Mike Scott would have faced the Mets in Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really a remarkable thing the Mets have done. The fact that they're playing the Dodgers, who a lot of people think is the best team in the National League. But the Mets have been so scorching hot and have played great baseball, clutch performances from particularly Francisco Lindor.
Francisco Lindor.
Pete Alonso and the cast has done an amazing job. The bullpen, which had been a sore spot for the Mets most of the year, has pitched much better.
Yes, they have.
And the starting pitching, particularly Sean Manaea, have been great over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, do I think the Mets can beat the Dodgers? They can, but I think this will be their toughest test of all.
I believe so.
And I believe the Mets will get close. I honestly don't think they're going to beat this team, but I think it will take 6 games before it's decided.
Mm-hmm. They're going to fight and claw their way back. They've been doing this for the last 2+ weeks, 3 weeks, and also too, the Tuesday game was the first home game the Mets played. The Mets hosted
in 2 weeks.
The Mets played. Since the Atlanta Braves, since the Brewers. It was the first home game they have played.
The Mets have been road warriors.
Without
question, over the last 2.5 weeks. They have won every game they've had to win. The Milwaukee game, which you and I were at, the watch party, most exciting game I've been to probably as a Met fan in years.
Yeah.
There may have been 20,000 people, but the screaming and yelling and shouting was like 50,000.
Yeah.
The Phillies game, in which they clinched this to get to this point, was the same way.
Yes.
A loud, extremely emotional crowd, fired up, exuberant, like you've never seen Met fans.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's going to play a factor in this series with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I do think the Mets are going to win a couple of these games. They're going to be tight.
Yeah.
They're going to be tough. And the Mets have found ways to win these games. What I think will hurt the Mets, unfortunately, is I believe they probably need one more starting pitcher to do it. We are getting Kodai Senga back. That's great for game 1.
Yeah.
Peterson.
Will he be available as far as the whole game? Will he pitch like 2, 3, 4 innings?
I think
because he's just coming back from injury. I guess they'll probably put him in the bullpen.
No, he's going to start.
Oh, he's going to start. Okay.
I think he'll pitch if I had to take a guess, I'm going to say 4 innings probably.
Yeah.
Because he did pitch a little bit against the Phillies, but for 2 innings.
Yeah.
They probably will stretch him to 4. But we have David Peterson,
Yes.
who's our
He's done
third
a great
starter,
job. Yeah.
has been like the Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
He has come in and relieved in games the Mets really needed somebody to bridge the gap before we get to Edwin Diaz.
Yes.
I think he will be used in this series a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Mets have left-handers, but he might be the best one they have in that kind of situation.
Yes.
I think a lot depends on how well Edwin Diaz pitches. He did give us a bit of a scare in the last game.
Saturday and Wednesday. Yeah. I saw that.
Walking the first 2 hitters.
Yeah.
And then striking out Kyle Schwarber, who has been amazing this season with 38 home runs, his best batting average ever, 250. But I think the Dodgers' experience of being in these playoffs, they, by the way, have been in 16 National League's championship series, more than any team in baseball. That might be where they have the edge on the Mets.
Yeah.
But they also have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, and the starting pitcher Yamamoto, who the Mets won, and the Yankees, who they paid $25 million for. He looked like the pitcher they expected him to be.
And don't forget Ohtani.
And Ohtani, how can we forget him?
God.
I have
50-50.
I have a feeling, as much as he was kept under control by San Diego, there will be some games that he'll hit some home runs. I think we have to accept that. Yeah. That's going to happen.
I mean, he's that good a player. I mean, he's a freak of nature. I always look at that. He's a total freak of nature.
He really is.
He pitches and he hits home runs.
And this year he hasn't pitched because he was recovering from an arm injury.
Yeah.
Next year he'll pitch. He'll probably be a pitcher and a DH next season, which we've never seen in the history of baseball.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an extremely talented Dodger team. And one guy we better not forget is Kike Hernandez. This guy plays anywhere the Dodgers want him. He can play the outfield, play shortstop. Do you know what? He has, in the postseason, 7 home runs. More than Aaron Judge, more than a lot of guys, including Freddie Freeman. You have to watch for him.
Oh, yeah.
He is the guy that propelled the Dodgers to the next round. He's the one who beat them, San Diego Padres, 2-0 with a home run off very talented Hugh Darvish. So I think that's where the Dodgers have the edge. They have experience and they have clutch performers. If the Mets can get through the first 2 games and split with them in LA, I think they'll have a legitimate chance to upset them.
I think so.
But it would be great if they can win game 1 starting tomorrow night.
Yes, get it over with. Get a good start.
Yes,
that's the way they did the other games.
The Phillies,
yeah. And the Brewers series, they won the first game. They've won the first game.
That's where the Mets have been shining. Is when they have to show up for game 1. They have done it.
Yeah.
They will have to do that again probably and split with the Dodgers. If they can get a split out of Los Angeles and come home to one of the most raucous crowds in baseball, they will have a legitimate chance.
Yes.
The Mets fans have been insanely behind this team like I've never seen them before. I certainly will be one of them rooting for them as well.
I certainly will too.
And we'll see if God wants them to be there because right now they're this close to getting to the top.
Now, as for the Yankees, what do you think are their chances?
I think the Yankees have had, frankly, an easier path to where they are right now.
Yeah.
They have played teams, no knock on Kansas City, really improved team who had lost 106 games 2 years ago to the postseason this year.
Yeah.
That's a major improvement if you're Kansas City. But they have not had to play the teams the Mets have had to play.
Oh, yeah.
The Mets by far have had the tougher schedule to get where they are. I do think they need to have Stanton be the star.
Yeah.
Judge has had a very rough time in the postseason in his whole career. He had 1 year where he had 265 out of 4 opportunities.
Yeah.
And they need Stanton to be what he is, which is a borderline Hall of Fame player right now. Nobody talks about him, but he has over 400 home runs.
Career home runs.
Yes.
That's interesting.
As much as he's injured, as much as Yankee fans complain about him, look at his numbers.
Yeah.
He is a fabulous postseason player.
Yeah.
He is what Lindor has been to the Mets.
Mm.
I think the Yankees, because of their pitching, and they have Stanton, probably get through the the Guardians. But the Guardians are a sneaky good team.
Yes, they are.
Because they have a guy named Ramirez who plays third base, who is a very quiet, but no doubt about it, superstar player. Their closer, Emmanuel Clase, yes, he did blow one game to the Tigers. This guy had only allowed 5 runs in the whole season out of the bullpen.
The entire regular season, 5 runs. That's incredible.
He is the closer in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
If the Yankees can get to him, they probably win the series.
Yeah.
But if Cleveland hangs around and they win at least 2 or 3 of these games, this could go 7 games.
Oh boy, yeah. So I guess the chances. What do you? Guess the chances are a Subway Series are somewhat.
It's a possibility. I think the Yankees right now have a better chance of getting to the World Series than the Mets.
Yeah.
But the Mets are having such a magic carpet ride of a season that maybe, just maybe, they can get through the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And I said to a guy who I know who had written something on Facebook, and he said, Subway Series, my response back to him was maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I say that too. I've been saying that to some of my friends. Maybe maybe Subway Series.
And if that happens, New York City will lose its sanity.
Yeah.
Because right now, I'll tell you honestly, the Met fans have this town to themselves. The Yankees are actually behind them right now.
Yeah.
People are coming out in droves to see the Mets at the sports bars, at the games, and the merchandise is flying off the shelves.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not the New York Yankees merchandise.
Yeah.
It's this team's merchandise.
That's right, yeah.
So I would love to see a World Series between them. Only this time, I want the Mets to win it if it happens.
Of course. Hey, we're Mets fans.
Exactly.
Why not? We're not. But also, too, I've been seeing a lot of shirts saying the for postseason for the Mets and all of that. I've seen a lot of shirts.
There's a lot of excitement in this town. I've been to a couple of games at the sports bars, and I've been dragged out of there Monday night, Wednesday night. I have seen the Met fans. We are going out of our minds.
Yeah.
I was at a sports bar in the city here on Wednesday night, and when Lindor smacked that grand slam, everybody jumped up out of their chairs, screamed, high fives all over the place. And it was like we were at that watch party that we were at a few weeks ago.
Back in, last Thursday last week.
There's a high level of intensity and insanity almost from the Met fans. How much they want to be in the World Series, how much they want their team to get their respect back. Guess what? If they get to the World Series and if they win, they will take New York City back from the Yankees.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I was speaking to my dad a couple of times, and I mentioned the story about the Mets and the Subway Series, and he seems to be so. When I mention it to him, he seems to be a really glowing. He's not like a big sports fan.
Right.
He's not a huge sports fan, but he seems to like it when the Mets make it because he knows all about the Mets.
My father, God bless him, if he were still alive, he would have absolutely loved what the Mets are doing this year.
Yeah.
This, in many ways, reminds me a little bit of, and I have to say it, very similar to 1986.
Oh, yes.
This is a team that has so much resilience and energy and firepower.
Yeah.
And run by a rookie manager as Davey Johnson was back in those days. This Carlos Mendoza, who I believe the Mets frankly stole from the Yankees, has done a superb job of keeping his team going. I don't even know where we'd be without him as our manager.
Yeah. By the way, David was in his 3rd season with the Mets in 86.
You're correct. I got ahead of myself on
That's okay. We're very excited.
We're very excited as Met fans. I'm sure a lot of our audience is too. But I would love to see them play a Subway Series again.
Oh, sure would.
That would be amazing.
On the other side of the news, on Tuesday, Jets head coach Robert Saleh was fired by the organization. He was actually escorted out of the building
Wow.
by security. This after the Jets lost to the Minnesota Vikings 23-17 Sunday night in London, following to 2-3. Saleh has been replaced by defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. How do you feel about the way the Jets handled this?
Well, I tell you what, you and I have been following the Jets probably 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And one thing we have learned about the Jets, nobody mismanages their team more than the New York Jets.
Tell me about it.
This team, Saleh, to me, was on his last legs anyway.
Yeah.
I had said to you and a number of friends of mine that if they did not make the playoffs this year, he has to be fired.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, in addition to that, Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, would have to be fired. And then they could get rid of Joe Douglas and start over again.
Yeah.
And the Jets have done this many times.
Wash, rinse, repeat. That's the Jets.
That's exactly what they are. And it's a continual cycle of misery for Jet fans. We have not made the playoffs, and I'm sure many of you know. 15 years, not even a playoff spot.
Not since 2010. No, 2011.
2011.
Yeah, 2011.
They have been the laughing stock of the NFL for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. I was thinking and hoping, since they had Aaron Rodgers, since they brought in two good running backs, Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, since they added to their wide receiver core and brought in Mike Williams to go with this defense, that they were finally going to be good. Remember when they were 3-1 or
Yes.
almost 3-1? I started saying, and I spoke too early, they're finally looking like a professional team. Not true.
No.
They are SOJ, same old Jets. And I'll tell you what, Jeff Ulbrich, who might be a better choice as the head coach than Saleh. Saleh was a guy who had immense patience and calm with the media, and I liked him personally, but I couldn't stand him as the coach.
No.
He is not an NFL head coach. What he is a very good defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But they needed a change. I'm surprised it happened in Game 5, but I guess they were desperate to do something.
Yeah.
Now we have to see if Jeff Ulbrich, who had been the defensive coordinator, can step up to the plate and coach this team. Daniel Hackett, who was the Jets offense until today,
he was placed Downing.
Todd Downing was his backup. Now they're playing the reverse. So we need
how
to
screwed
see,
up an organization.
And they are the worst organization in terms of running a show. There are teams like the Saints that were really awful in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. The Giants have had rough years lately, but no team screws up their organization, in my opinion, more than the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Now, we have to see at 2-3 with the Buffalo Bills coming in here on Monday night.
That's right.
If we can step up. Do you know what? If we straighten up, we can actually win this division, as bad as it is.
Yes, it is. I mean, because the Bills have been struggling big time. I was speaking to a friend who was a fan of the Bills, and she's like, oh Lord, it's like, I mean, she hasn't even mentioned the Bills to me. Wow. She called me like a couple of weeks ago. No, last week. Mm-hmm. She called me about the Jets playing in London.
Okay.
She never mentioned the Bills,
wow.
Which means her team is,
team is struggling. I mean, they still have their great quarterback in Josh Allen, and I say great because I believe he is.
Yeah.
But their defense has changed. A lot of the players they had last year are not there now. They're running a different kind of offense. They don't look completely comfortable doing it. And now there are questions about how they're being run. Mm-hmm. And then you can look at the Dolphins. Without Tua Tagovailoa, they're a little bit lost at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So this is still a division, as hard to believe as it is, that if the Jets can start figuring some things out, they actually could win this division. I know that's a lot to ask for the Jets, but it is possible. But can we get it right in running the team, please? As
far as Woody Johnson is concerned, speaking of the owners, Woody Johnson is ambassador to Great Britain. And he has a lot of friends in that country in high-ranking roles in business and government. He had to be embarrassed after seeing that
he had
game.
to be.
seeing that interception.
But-
And by the way, Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions in that game.
It was awful. And I don't often say that about Aaron Rodgers. That's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. But this team's offense, the way it's run, is so elementary and basic and boring and stiff and stale as it can be.
You and I could probably run the offense.
I think they could. I think most fans could run this better. And I think that's part of the reason we never got Bill Belichick to run this team, because of Woody Johnson. And I'll say this right now in the air, he is one of the most inept owners that the Jets have ever had. Look at the coaches that we've had. We had one great coach in Bill Parcells, a pretty good one in Rex Ryan, and a decent one in Herm Edwards.
Yeah.
After that, tell me who we've had.
Garbage.
So we're now on 15 years of not making the postseason. There's a reason why that's the case.
Yes.
And it has to do with the management and how they run this team. We did so much in the offseason and drafting.
That's right, the Jeffs. They
worked hard on this. I give Joe Douglas credit for this. The big mistake, of course, we know was Zach Wilson not putting him behind a veteran quarterback and letting him learn the NFL.
Yeah.
But then again, should he have been even drafted number 2?
No.
So this is where the Jets have problems. I don't know what else they can do now. They have shifted the offensive coordinator role. They have given the defensive coordinator the head coaching job. What's next? Joe Douglas, his season as a GM is on the line now.
Yes, definitely.
Because if this team, which has really improved a lot of what they have, does not make the playoffs, he will have to go as well.
He will probably go too. And then we're going to start all over. Wash, rinse, repeat.
And there's been discussion of Devontae Adams coming here. I hope they get him.
Yeah.
They are so desperate to have a good wide receiver who's in sync with Aaron Rodgers. But there are other teams interested, including Kansas City and the Ravens for 2. That's going to be tough for the Jets to get a guy like him.
Speaking of Belichick, he mentioned that he, along with Tony Dungy, were baffled. They were stunned with this firing, believe it or not.
Well, you can understand that because the Jets have been a team that doesn't ever figure everything out.
No.
There's always an issue with the Jets, no matter who their coach is. It could be Todd Bowles, who could have been a really good coach here had they given him more to work with.
Yeah.
It could be even Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells, to me, was the miracle maker of the Jets. He was the one coach we had who took a 1-15 team, made them 9-7 the next year, and got us into the playoffs the year after.
Yep.
And I wish there were a Bill Parcells type out here to turn this around, because frankly, that's what they need to have happen.
Yeah.
But we need so much help and figuring out who we are and what we are. And it needs to start on Monday night, guys.
Yes. Oh, by the way, also, too, according to the Post, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers finally admitted, this is the other day, he had a role in having Saleh fired. He wished he had played better the first 5 games. Would you blame that?
I can't blame it totally on him because he's only been here really this year. He wasn't with us last year with the injuries. But I think Aaron Rodgers does play a hand in this. And I'll tell you what I also believe. I believe the only reason Daniel Hackett is still here is because of Aaron Rodgers. Because let's face it, when you hire a coach who was a head coach of the Denver Broncos just 2 years ago, his record, by the way, as a head coach, 2-14. You never should hire somebody with a terrible losing record like that as your offensive coordinator. In short, what I'm saying is Daniel Hackett never should have been hired by the Jets.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I think should have been, and he's now with the Washington Commanders. His name is Cliff Kingsbury.
I remember that name. Yes, I remember.
He was the 5th quarterback the Jets had in 1999 when we lost Vinny Testaverde and Ray Lucas and other people. He was our 5th quarterback.
Wasn't that 2005? I think it was 2005.
Maybe.
Because they went through, I remember they were going through 5 quarterbacks. Pennington was out.
Pennington was out, yes.
And a couple of other people were out. I think you're talking 2005.
I might be. And if I am, excuse me for saying 1999. But the reality is they really need to do their homework when they hire these guys. This was a guy who got his teams to the playoffs a couple of times. I understand he had Kyler Murray, who is a very talented quarterback. But this was a successful head coach for the most part. He's come to the Commanders, who were below 500 the last X amount of years, and they are 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
And the part of the reason they're 4-1 is Jalen Daniels, who was the second pick in the draft. Great job by the Commanders drafting him. But Cliff Kingsbury has run the offense in a way that works for this guy.
Mm.
They should have thought about getting someone like that.
Mm.
Saleh, in my opinion, should have been the guy running the defense.
Yeah.
Because he never got involved in running the offense for this team.
Yeah.
He and Ulbrich should have run the defense, and Kingsbury should have run the offense.
Yeah.
And he might have been able to keep his job.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings last Sunday,
Sam
Darnold.
Yes.
Sam Darnold, who the Jets never gave any support to.
And guess what? Had they done this, I heard that Sam Darnold actually knew Saleh's system for running the team on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And what could they have done with that? If they had been smart, he would have started. Zach Wilson would have been the backup until he learned the job.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they just decided, that Sam Darnold was no longer needed, they could have moved on from him and put Zach Wilson in the quarterback spot after 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But did they do that? No.
No.
As soon as Zach Wilson was available as a college market, they grabbed him off the market and put him around the field right away.
Mm-hmm.
And they got rid of Sam Darnold. Well, Sam Darnold is a good quarterback, and I'll tell you why I say that. He has been with a couple of teams since then. But one team that really helped him out, the San Francisco 49ers. You know why? Because he was the backup to Brock Purdy, and that team knows how to run an offense.
Yep.
So he's been with 3 teams. He's been with the Carolina Panthers, the Jets, and the 49ers on Team 4. Now he's becoming a star, something the Jets have been looking for, and they can't find it, not even with Aaron Rodgers. What a shame.
Yes, indeed. Great job for Sam Darnold.
Excellent.
Great job.
I hope he does really well with
I hope so too. Meanwhile, the Giants, who are 2-3 also, host the Cincinnati Bengals at MetLife tomorrow night. They actually beat the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle last Sunday, 29-20.
First of all,
how do you feel against the 1-4 Cincinnati team tomorrow?
I think they have a shot if they can play good enough defense. Cincinnati is a team that normally does not get off to good starts. They lost a very tough game to the Ravens in overtime, I believe it was 38-35. They are an excellent offensive team. When their quarterback, Joe Burrow, and Lamar and Chase, their wide receiver, connect, they are almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
But they have weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball. The problem the Giants have is that their best receiver, Neighbors, is out with a concussion for the second week in a row. Now, if Brian Daboll can figure out what to do with this offense like he did against Seattle, and they play better defense, they actually do have a shot.
I'm still shocked the Giants beat Seattle in Seattle.
I am too.
They never lose in there.
No, they never win there.
The Seahawks never lose. Seahawks never lose in Seattle because of that noise. I've been inside the stadium, and it's kind of like a curve, kind of like a curve. It's not like a dome, but it's like very narrow. It's not a pyramid, but it's kind of like narrow. It's kind of like a stadium, but it's kind of like it's little. How do I explain it? It's a little. Usually stadiums are a little more open like this.
Okay.
They're open like this.
Right.
Very, very narrow. So the noise circulates inside.
The 12th man, as they like to refer to their
crowd, 12th man, yeah,
is as loud and vocal as any crowd in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I give the Giants a lot of credit. They've woken up. They're playing better. Daniel Jones, I have not been on his case the last week or so. He is playing better. I don't know if that'll be good enough for him to stay with the Giants, but we're seeing signs that maybe he can be a decent quarterback in the NFL. He's using his legs more. He's moving out of the pocket more. Good for him. But I think tomorrow's game could be a game the Giants win because their defense has to step up enough to do it. But I think they're capable, and they figured out how to run that offense with guys like Wan'Dale Robinson and the other receivers they have. They figured out a way to beat Seattle. If they can do this again, then they actually might be a 500 team.
Holy shots.
That would be
500? Oh, my God.
For the Giants, that would be a major improvement.
Oh, my God.
We'll have to see what happens tomorrow night.
Yes, indeed. For Steve Ferguson, this is Petro Hazel Jr. saying, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and check out our web address for this and previous shows. Good night and see you in 2 weekends.
Go Mets! LGM.
LGM, indeed.
I think you were more conversational.